Hello, everybody, and welcome to Flock's Nest podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Dallas. I'm wearing number 9 of the Baltimore Ravens. Justin Tucker, as your resident Ravens fan, I bring the flock.
I'm Brendan. I'm the other co-host. I'm wearing 54 Bobby Wagner from the Seattle Seahawks, so I'm your resident Seahawks fan, so I bring the nest.
We've got some awesome things for you today that we're going to be talking about. This is our first episode, so kind of bear with us as we get through some glitches or some normal things. Hopefully, if you subscribe to us week by week, we'll get better at it. But we are going to talk about some football takes. Obviously, that is our first love and foremost love when it comes to sports. But we will be bringing you all sports news. We're going to talk some NBA, WNBA, we'll talk Olympics, soccer, basketball, baseball as it becomes kind of relevant if something exciting happens. And obviously, through this time with no sports really in season, we will be having a lot of Olympic talks and as well as hot football takes before the season gets started. Since football is our first and foremost love, we are going to start there with breaking news. Brendan, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so for breaking news, we had a couple quarterbacks clear to participate in practice. We had Daniel Jones, the quarterback of the Giants, is fully cleared to start practice. So he's looking to start week 1 or battle Drew Lock for that spot. And then Joe Burrow was another one that was cleared to start practice. So he's just going to start week 1 for the Bengals.
Yeah, we knew if Burrow was healthy, obviously there's no question like who's going to start there. What do you think the chances of Locke beating Drew for the job, or Locke beating Jones for the job?
It's not high. There's still a chance, I would say. I think Dayball is a coach that is going to pick his quarterback. So I think if he thinks Drew Lock is his quarterback, he's going to go with Drew Lock. But if he thinks Daniel Jones is his quarterback, and Daniel Jones was his quarterback when he took them to the playoffs. Now, last season wasn't great, and they missed the playoffs, but Daniel Jones also got hurt. We don't really know a whole ton about that injury other than he tore his ACL, I believe.
Yeah. And then, he had the neck injury early in the season.
Yeah, it was the neck injury early. So just a injury-prone season or an injury-ridden season for Jones. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's impossible for Locke to win the job, but I would say it's still Jones. It's Jones's to lose at this point.
I kind of think, I agree with you. I kind of think even if Locke does better in training camp, Jones will have the starting job. When we kind of decided we would talk more about this later, maybe after the Olympics or after it was all done, but we are both watching Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
Everything they did this offseason was to help Jones and to build that team around him. So I think even if they go, okay, maybe Locke's doing a little better, we have to remember, Jones is coming off the injury. Let's give him some time. Getting into the season, they're going to want to see what he does then. I would say if by Thanksgiving it's been a crapshoot, then yeah, maybe it's Locke's to take. But I think regardless to start this season, Jones is going to have the job.
Yeah.
Next, with breaking news, we're going to get into kind of all of the contract disputes that are happening right now and how that's impacting different teams and different quarterbacks. We are going to start in Green Bay. As Jordan Love explained, he will not practice without a new deal. He is at training camp. He is in Green Bay's facility. He's just not putting on a jersey, red or otherwise.
I would say this is an interesting one because he's a hold-in, not a hold-out. And for anyone wondering, a hold-in still attends like meetings. They go to the facility. They don't practice. They don't put on a jersey. They don't do anything
and
like
you can't
that.
be being a hold-in.
Yeah. So for Love, this is just him trying not to get hurt until he gets his new deal. I think it's not a bad idea. You don't want to get hurt. if you think you're about to get a new deal. And it sounds like the Packers are working out a new one. But from the Packers side, I'd also understand trying to wait a year on a new deal because um, the Packers, Love only had one season of playing. Other than that, he's sat behind Aaron Rodgers, who is a quarterback that's good to sit behind. And the Green Bay Packers have proven that they are a good team to develop a quarterback. So I think for Love and the Green Bay Packers, I understand the Packers want to give him another year of like, hey, let's do another year of you on the field. Let's make sure you are our guy before we commit to you. But from Love's standpoint, I understand you're still on your rookie deal. You're going into your fourth year. You have your fifth year option still, but that new deal is just security for you. Knowing that you have a new deal, you get to stay in Green Bay, I think is important. So I think from both sides, it makes sense. And again, I think Love being a hold in is probably the better move for him, just because then you're not creating like a bad locker room toxic. Like you're there, you're just not practicing.
He's not creating a bunch of noise. He's not turning it into this drama fest. It's just, hey, I don't want to risk the injury until we get this done. I agree with everything you said. I do think the most interesting part to me is that Green Bay wants the deal done so early. When you look at, and maybe it's kind of a twofold thing, when you look at what the current quarterback market is financially, that's a tough sell for a quarterback that's only had 1 year worth of starting. Now, yes, they've had 3 years of him in practice, in the locker room. They know who he is as a human being. They know who he is as a leader, as a guy. And that's great. But as an actual franchise quarterback, you have 1 season and only 8 games that were really good. Now, yes, phenomenally good, whooped the Cowboys at home in the playoffs. Great. But to pay someone $250 million, I'd want to see another year. Unless he's willing to take maybe a more team-friendly deal or a smaller deal because he hasn't played that long. I'm not sure how that conversation's going to go, but when you look at around the league, that price just goes up the longer you wait. So there's also that. I do think it's a little interesting that Green Bay wants to get the deal done quite so soon. I understand players holding in or out for your money, get paid. Quarterbacks are always kind of an interesting one. The likelihood that you get hurt in training camp is pretty low for a quarterback. You can't get a contact injury. So I get it from his perspective of, I don't want to risk it. I don't know that it's necessary. I also think, kind of like you said, the Packers are really good at developing a quarterback. There are teams that if they said to me, hey, you're the guy, we just can't get a deal done right now, or we're arguing over guarantees or whatever, I would trust a little less. I'd be like, well, I ain't stepping on that field until you pay me.
Mm-hmm.
Green Bay is not one of those teams. They love having the same quarterback for a long time. If they tell you you're the guy, that's a team I would trust a little bit more as to, okay, we're going to get this done. Let me get these reps in. Let me get this practice in. Let me do all of this. They still have a young team. He's, young in terms of starting. Let's get these reps. So when we start the season, we come out swinging versus coming out really slow like they did last year. Proving that you're worth Burrow money or Hurts money, or you're fighting for every dollar right now. So I do kind of think from his perspective, if you were on a different team, I'd get it a little more. Being on Green Bay, I'd probably practice, but at the end of the day, get your money.
Yeah.
Next, we're going to move to San Francisco, as we found out the other day that Trent Williams, the left tackle, is holding out via contract disputes.
This is an interesting one, and it's especially interesting for who we're going to talk about next, because
Mhm.
I think Trent Williams gets a contract before Brandon Ayuk, who we're going to talk about next. So I think Trent Williams will get a new contract. There's no way. There's just no way. They the 49ers are built to need Trent Williams. Like, I think the 49ers can live without a lot of players. I think they kind of need C-Mac, and I think they need Debo, they need Purdy, and they need Williams on that offense. Other than that, I think that offense will do just fine if they just have those four guys. And I think Williams is one of the most important players of that offense. And we saw during the season when Williams went out for 3 games, the 49ers lost those 3 games. So I think Williams will get a new deal. I just don't know what it will be.
Yeah. Like you said, that offense, and I think you kind of left out the most important person on that offense, which is Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
Like, he's an offensive machine. This is what he does. This is what he's always done. We've talked about we don't love the coaching tree thing. But Shanahan's tree is offensively designed. It's creative. It's always kind of the newest thing on the market. It's kind of like the new iPhone. Like, it always has these gadgets and gimmicks that everyone else is trying to copy. The left tackle for a right-handed quarterback is one of the most important things. It's just true. Um, Side is about a left tackle, and she says in the intro to the movie, first you pay the home, like the mortgage, and then you pay the insurance. That's what the left tackle is. Trent Williams is probably the best left tackle in the NFL, at minimum top 5. He's great at what he does. He protects very well. Like you said, without him, they lost. So I definitely think he gets a new contract. I didn't realize he was up for one.
None did I.
So I think the thing that makes this the most interesting is I still don't understand, I guess. And I think to me it makes it even more questionable. Was repaying C-Mac and re-upping him as much as they did. Like, he went from the highest paid running back to even higher paid, with a left tackle needing paid, a wide receiver needing paid, and you're going to have to pay that quarter. You're going to have to pay Purdy. You don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm a little, I guess, kind of surprised at how they've worked their in-team off-season so far. I'm a little confused. I'm not John Lynch. He's always been a great GM. I think he builds a really great roster. But I do think we've created some financial problems for a team that walked off the field winning the Super Bowl. They gave Mahomes the chance, but the offense walked off as the winner. And then they gave Mahomes the ball to tie it, and we went into overtime. I just think I'm just confused when our goal, this team, other than the Chiefs, like this team for the NFC, has been in the Super Bowl in the last 5-6 years more than any other team. I would think, roster wise, you'd want to keep some of these great players. And so you might have to structure things a little differently. I genuinely believe C-Mac would have understood if you went, hey, we might up you a little bit, or maybe we up the guarantees, but financially we keep you where you were at so we can pay these other players. Ayuk's looking for his first bag. Wide receivers sometimes on their second contracts will take less, but their first, he's looking for that money. He's their number one target. I'm just confused by everything that's happening. Trent Williams is worth the bag. He's gonna get it. And you're putting yourself in a position of, okay, you don't pay these guys. You have one more year to run it back and try and get a Super Bowl. And then your roster is going to look very, very differently. And there are questions about, is Purdy a system quarterback, or can he do it with a less talented roster? And I don't know that we want to find that out with him going into a contract year. So I kind of mentioned him, but we are going to just kick it off. Ayuk will not practice without a new deal. He did request a trade. He is at training camp, but he's another one. He's a hold in. He won't touch the field without a new deal. I'm just going to kind of kick this one off really quickly because I kind of touched on it already. I don't think he's going to get one. I don't think they have the money for it anymore. You have to pay Trent Williams. You repaid C-Mac. You paid Debo last year. You paid Bosa last year. You have Purdy coming down. I don't know where the money's at. I'm shocked they haven't traded him yet. I would have. I think teams like Buffalo or New England would give you quite a lot for him, or at least high value. I think you're looking at a first round pick from either one of them. They could absolutely use a talented number one wide receiver that can catch damn near any ball. Yeah, I mean, he'll play this year as a 49er. A wide receiver can't really afford to sit out a season. Your stock vastly drops. You know, they want to see the yardage, they want to see the catches. I don't know why sit on him when you're looking at possibly losing him for nothing, when right now he's worth at least a first round pick to a couple of teams.
Absolutely. It's one. I honestly think he will be traded. I think they'll find
Before
I think they'll find someone mid-season. I think I think it's honestly going to be the Bills. I think the Bills will sit there mid-season and go, we're one piece away from possibly contending, and we'll look at that wide receiver room and be like, just one more good weapon
yeah,
for Allen. And I think
because they did draft a guy.
and I think Ayuk would push them over the edge in terms of being true contenders.
Actually competing with Mahomes.
Yeah.
Just, hey, we're losing again in the second or third round.
Yeah. So I think Ayuk will get traded. If he's not traded, he gets a deal done. But again, I don't see where the money is going to come from.
Yeah.
Unless Trent Williams takes a huge pay cut, which I mean, like, I doubt, but it's possible. And then again, next year you have Purdy coming down the tracks, who's could reset the QB market. Like, we talk about this a lot. The QB market gets reset with every new contract, essentially, unless it's a Baker Mayfield or a Geno Smith-esque player, and then they get that kind of contract. Brock Purdy isn't going to get that kind of contract. He's going to get the Jalen Hurts', the Lamar Jacksons, the Justin Herbert's contracts, and possibly even reset the market again. So
yeah, I don't see a way he's looking at anything under than 260 million. I don't.
No. So it's where you're going to get the money to pay Ayuk, who is now looking at getting a top end wide receiver contract, which is only going to get more expensive because there's receivers later down the list that is probably going to reset the market for receivers.
Like we talked about, like CeeDee Lamb still hasn't been paid.
That's who I'm talking about.
Jamar Chase is looking for a contract next year. You know, these are still top end A+ number one wide receivers that are looking at what this market has done, going, keep going.
Yeah, so I don't see the money there for Ayuk, but I do see a trade. I think it'll be Buffalo. I think Buffalo will see that, like, they're one piece away and go for it. The other team I see is the Patriots. I think you said them.
Yeah.
But the Patriots just need a number one wide receiver. Like, they just need a wide receiver that will just
That's why
demand and get the ball.
that's why I really like Ayuk to New England. Especially with Drake May eventually starting, they've already said right now Brissett is clearly the week 1 starter, which I think is a good thing. There's no reason to push it. There's no reason to force Drake May out there, have him lose his confidence. They're not going to be a good team. But part of that is they have no weapons. Ayuk can catch anything. An inch off the ground, he's got it. He's got to go up and get it. He's got it. A contested ball, he's got it. So I think a number 1 guy, a veteran, with that kind of perimeter for a rookie quarterback, I don't know what more you want. He's a proven number 1 receiver. And so I think New England, I think it's his best bet, and they're not paying anybody else.
Yeah,
He's going to get the bag. Buffalo, you do have a little bit less cap room to work with. But I agree. And I do think from their perspective, Ayuk's one that, okay, maybe I don't catch the ball, but nobody else will either. So I think you'd see a drop in Josh Allen's interceptions. And with him having 2, like his rookie one and Ayuk, the defense won't be able to double anybody up really. They have Kincaid as well. Like,
yeah,
they'll have more options. So I do agree. I think those are the 2 top. I would be kind of surprised, I guess, if he went somewhere else.
yeah. I can't think of anywhere else that I'm like
Is
desperate
really
for
looking for a number 1.
and is desperate for a receiver.
Yeah,
Because like
that would give San Fran what they want for him.
Yeah. And then next on, we mentioned him. It's CeeDee Lamb will not practice. He's a hold out, not a hold in. So he's going to be fined for not participating in training camp, but he's holding out for a new contract. What do you think?
This one's so hard for me. Because there are 3 stars on, I keep doing air quotes, but they're down here, so you can't see them, so you just see my shoulders move. There are 3 stars on Dallas looking for new contracts. Micah Parsons wants to get paid.
Yep.
CeeDee Lamb wants to get paid. And both of those 2 are looking for their first big contract. They are coming off of their rookie. Dak Prescott wants to get paid. Now, you can say whatever you like about Dak in the postseason and their struggles, and you can blame whoever you like for that. At the end of the day, he is a 12-win All-Pro quarterback. He is worth, statistically speaking, what Lamar's made, what Hurts has made, what Burrow's made. Like, that's the contract that he's worth. You cannot afford to pay all 3 of them. Or you at least got to get creative with it. CeeDee Lamb's contract is up first. However, you do have options. You have the franchise tag. Dak can't be tagged. I keep doing that. Dak cannot be traded. Mm-hmm. You're looking at your star quarterback walking away and getting absolutely nothing in return. You have to sign him or get him agree to waive his trade clause. And if I were Dak, I'd be like, you've screwed around with me and my money for years. No. If I have to go out and get a contract with someone else, I'm going to decide. And you're not going to get crap for it. I'm going to be honest, I'd be petty about it. Micah is an elite pass rusher. He makes that defense. He's going to get paid. CeeDee Lamb, wide receivers have, we talked about what the running back market has done. And it's easy to draft running backs. It's easy to get running backs and free agents. Wide receivers, unless you're looking at kind of your top 10 in the league, are becoming that. So many wide receivers are drafted every year.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth round guys are productive. So do you spend valuable cap space on CeeDee Lamb when maybe you could go and get a new one, next year? I think the other hard part about this is they did not do dick this offseason.
No.
Their draft was weak. They didn't do crap for free agency. Like, I don't know what the goal is for Dallas. I don't think it's win a Super Bowl. I don't know what the goal is here, but I don't think it's win anything except 12 games. Um, Lamb is worth the top of the market. He gets a lot of catches. Now, I will say he is Dak's number one target. You're going to get a lot of yards. You're going to get a lot of targets. Would you be a number one in someone else's offense? I don't know the answer to that. But I do think when you're looking at the market and on the Cowboys, yes, you're worth that $30 million. They don't have that kind of space to give you that. So as Lamb, I probably wouldn't hold out. Ain't gonna find me. Now, a lot of these teams, when you get a contract done, they waive those fines. But I'd sit in that building. I'd make it as uncomfortable as possible. Be like, pay me or move on.
Yeah, it's definitely one. Because, yeah, I think if he gets a new contract, it resets the market for wide receivers. It just, like, for what he is to the Cowboys, he'll reset the market. But again, the Cowboys just don't have the cap space for it. Like, and especially if you think about it, who would you rather have? Would you rather have CeeDee Lamb or Micah Parsons? I would probably choose Micah Parsons because I think he's the more generational type of player. It's harder to find that generational do-it-all D lineman than it is to find a
Oh,
generation, a wide receiver. Now, I will say it's going to be hard to find a wide receiver as good as CeeDee Lamb in the draft. That's just a fact. CeeDee Lamb is one of the best wide receivers in the league. But again, wide receivers one. Who knows? Maybe drafting two wide receivers to replace him. You've taken the idea of two to replace what CeeDee Lamb's done. Now you
yeah.
have two targets instead of just CeeDee Lamb. Because it's really just CeeDee Lamb in Dallas for that offense. Like
His other targets just don't have the production.
they have that tight end. Cannot think of his name. But they have a pretty decent tight end. They have CeeDee Lamb. I think Brandon Cooks is still there. So
Yeah.
he's a solid number 2, number 3. But again, I think maybe just if you can't sign CeeDee Lamb with the capital you have, I think you just have to kind of trade him or let him go and draft and get new wide receivers there to try to replace him.
Were you thinking Ferguson?
Yes, I was thinking Jake Ferguson. Thank you.
Um, yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I think, they need help on offense. I don't think paying CeeDee Lamb 30 plus million is going to fix the problems you've had in the postseason.
No.
Dak needs a better running back. Throwing the ball 50 times doesn't work out for him, and that's okay. But when you have one target, interceptions go up. When you're trying to force it, those problems happen. He needs a new running back because Zeke isn't good enough anymore. You get two younger wide receivers. I get it from Lamb's perspective, but I think from the Cowboys, I'd rather pay Dak and Micah.
Yeah.
And add some youth to your offense. Nothing wrong with that.
So, CeeDee Lamb situation, I think the Cowboys will want to get him done, but we'll see if they have the cap space to do it. Moving on to Hassan Reddick.
new or same division. Or
Yes.
no, now he's in the Jets. Now he's a Jet.
Yeah, now he's with the Jets. Moving on, Hassan Reddick is holding in, I believe. I believe he's a hold in. Either way, he is looking for a new
Nope,
deal.
he's a holdout.
He's a holdout. Okay.
Mhm.
Hassan Reddick is looking for a new deal, and this comes from he was supposed to get traded to the Jets and sign a new deal with the Jets upon his arrival. That has not happened. So he's holding out, looking for the contract that he thinks he deserves with the Jets.
This is insane. This is insane. I all this speaks to for me is the dysfunction in the Jets building.
100%.
When you trade for an elite player, which Hassan Reddick is, he is an elite pass rusher. He is
Hmm.
the only pass rusher to have at least 10 sacks, I think the last 4 years.
I think that's right.
That's hard to do. It's not just hard to do, it's almost impossible. I'm a Ravens fan. I have great defenses. No one on my defense has done that.
I'm a
Like,
I'm a Seahawks
it's,
fan. We don't get people with 10 plus sacks.
yeah,
Like,
like, he said publicly, the Eagles cannot and will not pay me what I'm worth.
hmm
So if a team trades for me, understand you must give me a new contract. He said it. Jets went, done deal, come to New York. Did it. Went and, said okay, showed up at the team facility. Cool. You work with my agent, get a deal done, I'll be back. Hasn't been done. They offered him a contract. They did offer him one. Way lowballed. It was like 28 million. And when Bosa's making 35, that ain't gonna cut it.
No.
And he went, not good enough. Call me with a better offer. And he hasn't been back to the Jets facility since. This is insane. You're out here trying to convince people that your 40-year-old quarterback coming off a torn Achilles and an offense that hasn't done anything in the better part of a decade with your top 5 defense is going to win a Super Bowl. And we're going to keep distractions out of the building. Here's another one.
Yeah.
How have you not paid him yet? Who are you paying? Aaron Rodgers took a massive pay cut. He gave millions back to the team when he went from Green Bay to the Jets. Because he was like, y'all don't need to pay me $30 million. We're trying to do something different here. So you have the cap space.
And you're not paying Garrett Wilson. You're not paying Brees Hall.
Too young. Too young.
Yeah, you're not paying Sauce Gardner yet.
So you're looking at an elite defensive player to help this team because that's what you're going to need, by the way. That's what you're going to need with your patchwork offensive line. You're going to need an elite defense if you want to make a postseason run. So you go out and get a pass rusher and then go, I know you want a new deal, but we're not going to pay you. What the? What?
Yeah, that doesn't.
This is what happens when you trade for elite players. You have to pay them. That's how it works.
Yeah.
What are you doing? I wouldn't practice either. This one I get being a holdout when you made your intention very clear from the beginning. And I don't think, I think the goal is eventually you'll get that deal.
Yeah.
You don't want to show up at the facility now and have this be these guys' like first impression of you.
No.
Of being like, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, you want to build a connection with them. So it's, I think in this case, better to sit at home and wait rather than go into the facility and kind of make a stink about it.
Yeah, 100%. But I think this is also like shows just how dysfunctional that front office is. Like you look around the league at front offices when a trade happens. For example, Seattle. Seattle traded for Leonard Williams midway through the season.
Mhm.
He re-signed a massive contract with the Seahawks this past free agency, which is huge. I think that shows that one, Seahawks were willing to pay him what they thought he deserved after trading for him, which they told him they would try to give him money. And now there's other examples around the league. You look at who's the other one that got traded midway through the season? I had his name. There's been a ton of guys that get traded, and they're like,
I mean, you go one season back, Roquan
yeah,
does not have an agent. Was traded to the Ravens halfway through the season, played games, produced, and the Ravens were still able to get him a new contract within a month of him being there, not having anyone they could talk to but him.
mm-hmm.
If they can do it. And most players, including Roquan, was like, I don't really want to talk about this to start. I just want to get my foot in the door. They still had it done within 6 weeks.
Yeah, like it's
been 3 months for Hassan Reddick.
So I think it does. I think it speaks to the dysfunctionality of that front office, which the Jets are a team that just they don't have it all. They don't have the pieces, but they think they do. And part of that is the New York media. Part of that is you just got Aaron Rodgers. Part of that is all this stuff that looks great, but
On paper,
yeah, on paper it looks great, but who knows if it's actually going to work.
dysfunction breeds losses.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, look, a lot of people are really hyped about the roster. I have questions at certain spots. But I don't understand how you can go into the season excited as a Jets fan with all of the problems and all of the noise and all of the just dysfunction coming out of there right now. I'm not saying that maybe there isn't talent, but talent alone will not win a football game. It will not win a football season, and it certainly will not win a Super Bowl. In the AFC with Patrick Mahomes, it's not. It doesn't work that way. You know, all the problems that Kansas City's having right now with their personnel is still less noisy than the Jets. And they have players being arrested. They have players that entire groups of people are crucifying on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And they don't have the noise coming out of that facility as the Jets do. And then you want to tell me that you're a contender? That you're going to fight them for a Super Bowl? How? It's crazy.
And then just to confirm, I was looking at it. He is a holdout, and that has become official 13 minutes ago that they placed him on the holdout list. So
I was pretty confident, but that's good to know.
Yeah, he's a holdout, not a hold-in. So he did not report to camp.
So now that we've talked about everybody not at camp, let's talk about who kind of is at camp and what we're looking for in training camp, not just with our own teams, but kind of across the league, the main things we look out for and the main things we kind of go, it's cool to see, but doesn't matter so much. So I will kick us off, starting in Baltimore. The number one thing I'm looking for right now, obviously, is injuries. Anything that might come up or pop up. You know, training camp is the hardest set of practices that teams go through. It's the most physically demanding. No, they don't tackle a whole ton, but it's just hard on the body. You know, every player I've heard talk says this is when they put the most work in, the most reps, the most energy, the most effort, because it's about getting back in shape for the regular season. And you're installing new schemes. It's just a lot of work. So I am watching for anything that comes up. The only member on the PUP list of the Ravens was Keaton Mitchell. That was to be expected. He tore his meniscus pretty late in the season last year. So just kind of watching to see how he does. I did get a clip of, some training camp videos. He is not in uniform at all. He's still in like shorts and a t-shirt. So he's not even kind of doing some work right now with the team. I'm sure he's working the trainers. They have a great strength and conditioning coaches over there. They got Mark Andrews back really early from his injury. So I do have faith. But Baltimore's also really cagey when it comes to timelines for players. They don't like to give them. I respect that about the organization, even though it kind of makes me want to pull my hair out. Also for training camp, I'm looking for O-line development. That was something we lost quite a bit of pieces in the offseason. We lost Moses. We lost Simpson. I am excited about some of the things we did. We drafted Rosengarten, who was Michael Penix's right tackle, and Michael Penix is left-handed, so his right tackle was his blindside blocker. So to have that piece is exciting. It means that Lamar's right tackle now will be more aware of not letting someone get through. He will kind of have that mentality of like, someone gets by me, my quarterback's not going to know it. And I don't think that's something they're going to try and train out of him. And he's still used to playing in that position. He also has Linderbaum at center, who's become one of the best centers in the league. I think they've rated him. He was second. The only person above him was Kelsey. So now he's kind of one of the best.
Yeah.
And Stanley there at left tackle, obviously a veteran. He was a big piece in helping Linderbaum develop. So I think he'll be a big piece for Rosengarten as well. And then both of my guard positions are up for grabs. We drafted some interesting guys, got some guys in free agency, and then we had a lot on the roster already that had taken snaps, had taken reps, but both of those positions are up for grabs. My wide receiver room didn't change a whole ton. Yes, I lost OBJ. That's not really a detriment in terms of on-the-field production. That's not why they picked him up in the first place. He was very much there to be a veteran presence in the locker room. He was there to help guys. And you saw that. You saw those, his style come out. You saw a lot of players catch one-handed catches, interceptions. You saw him throughout the field, but you didn't see him specifically have a lot of production. So I'm not bothered that he's not there anymore. Duvernay's kind of a loss to special teams. But Devontae Welker, that's going to be his main role this offseason. And we also still have Tylan Wallace, who made the punt return for a touchdown. So that's kind of hard to argue with. Defense, yes, we had some changes. We had a few. We are excited for Mike McDonald getting his shot in Seattle to be a head coach. This has obviously been his goal for a long time. Yeah. This has been his goal. This has been what he's been working towards. So we're happy for him. They did promote Zach Orr from within, who was McDonald's assistant. He's been in that building as a player, as position coaches. It's his turn. It's his turn to get the shot at coordinator. He is more of a secondary coach. I'm pretty excited for that. The Ravens D-line has always been really powerful. But the secondary sometimes falls off a little bit. I think you see that with our draft picks. Like, that's why we drafted Wiggins. That's why we drafted TJ Tampa, is to really develop and enhance that secondary, especially since Humphrey had some injury problems last year. But you still have Roquan on the D-line to be that leader, to be that veteran presence. So I don't think the defense is going to take a step back. Yes, we lost Patrick Queen to the Steelers, so he's dead to us now. But they declined his fifth-year option in the first place for a reason. Before Roquan got there, he was not producing at the level they wanted him to or needed him to. So I don't think it's going to be as big of a loss as some other people seem to think it will. Jadeveon Clowney, I was a little bummed by. He did really help in the pass rush game. We did draft a guy whose name is escaping me right now. But again, that's something the Ravens always do well, so I'm not super concerned. Same with
I don't know.
Stone.
Stone.
Yeah, he had one good season with interceptions, but he was kind of one. People kept kind of targeting him, not thinking he would produce very well. I don't think we're going to see a real drop-off in the secondary play with the additions we made, all of these other things. So as a general, and then we are going into the second year of Monken's offense. So I just think the team is making really good changes. Oh, I realize also changes. We added Derrick Henry. Can't talk changes and not talk about the King.
Oh, yeah.
we lost Gus and J.K. Dobbins. I was bummed. You know this. I texted you. I was like, why are they doing this to me? And then the next day they signed Henry, and I was like, oh, okay, that's why.
Yeah.
Edwards, you could kind of see it last year when Keaton Mitchell was coming up. Edwards was kind of falling back again into that second running back spot. So I did get it. JK, they love JK in Baltimore. I love JK in Baltimore. He's just got too many injuries.
Yeah.
My thing with Henry is kind of like my thing with OBJ. Yes, I expect him to produce more. He is expected to be the number one running back. But the number one thing they need right now is a diva. We can talk about the AFC Championship game. I'm going to try not to yell. They are a run-heavy offense. That's who they are. Lamar can throw the ball. He's a good passer. He's been a passing leader. I don't want to hear it. But sometimes Roman went through this. Monken went through this. They get into the playoffs and they go, oh crap, maybe our play style isn't good enough. So they get away from who they are, they get away from what they do, and they expect the offense to just change overnight. And you see the penalties go up drastically, drop balls go up drastically, fumbles go up drastically. All of these problems are created because they're trying to run an offense. They have no idea how to run. So now with Derrick Henry in the building, had he been given that game plan for the Chiefs, he'd have lost his mind. He'd been like, where the hell am I? So I think now, even though divas tend not to do well in Baltimore, I think the addition of a diva running back to keep them on track, keep them true to who they are and what they do well at an elite level is going to benefit them primarily in the postseason. No, I don't think you're going to see a ton of changes. You'll see good yards. You'll see, they're always a top 5 rushing team.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to change. But I think in the postseason, we'll see them stay true to who they are and what they do.
Yeah.
I do want to talk one more thing before we move on to Seattle. Coach Harbaugh gave a press conference the other day coming out of training camp practice, and a lot of the defensive players got up into the podium. And he said some things, and I have not given you my take, so you're blind reacting to what I'm about to say.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell's happening.
He said 2 things that I think are important. So I'm going to start. The first thing he said is Lamar Jackson is fundamentally disrespected.
Okay.
And that's true. The media has always underestimated Lamar.
Mm-hmm.
He's never quite gotten the credit he deserves. I agree with that point. I think Lamar is often underrated, undervalued. When people are ranking quarterbacks, I often find he's too low. He does great things. Yes, there have been struggles in the offseason. I do equate some of that to coordinators are scared their system won't work.
Mm-hmm.
So when you throw out the playbook and give him a new play sheet, a new playbook, and go, okay, make it work, and he's like, what am I supposed to do here? That's not something anybody could do.
No.
I own a donut shop. If you threw away my donut mix, handed me some random bag of pizza dough, and went, here, make it, it's not going to come out great. It's not going to come out great. I'm a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
So I equate a lot of that to those things. The other thing he said was the vision for Lamar Jackson is for him to be recognized and appreciated as the greatest quarterback of all time in the history of the NFL. Here's the thing. I am not saying that's impossible.
I'm not saying it's impossible.
It is a very lofty goal. Mm-hmm. And you're very far behind. Unfortunately, Patrick Mahomes does exist. You're several Super Bowls behind.
And Tom Brady exists.
Yes. I think a coach should have that kind of faith in your quarterback. Caleb Williams is not showing up in Chicago and Eberflus going, yeah, I expect you to be like a top 12. That's not how you encourage a quarterback. That's not how you motivate a quarterback. You look at them, you develop them, and you go, hey, hopefully we can make you the best quarterback ever and the best version of yourself. Here's what I will say, and this is where this is the take. You have to stay with me through it all.
I will stay with you through it all.
I do not think he's as far away from being a GOAT, not the GOAT, but a GOAT, as some people might think. If he wins a Super Bowl, just one,
Okay.
he is then statistically and accolade based the best running quarterback of all time.
Yep.
That is factual. Cam Newton never got a Super Bowl. Michael Vick never got a Super Bowl.
No.
Hurts is not quite the runner Lamar is.
No.
So when you look at just his style of play, if he wins a Super Bowl, I prefer to say win, but I am going to use the word if. It's hard to do. If he wins a Super Bowl, he does become the greatest running quarterback of all time.
Yeah.
So I do not think the overarching concept of a GOAT is that far away. I also think if he wins a Super Bowl, he vastly changes the game. He changes the conversation surrounding quarterbacks. You might, when drafting, be willing to draft a more Lamar style because you've proven it can win. He can win at that rate. Yeah. Because that's the number one question right now. Is his play style, can it win? And everyone's like, no, it can't. Look at the postseason. Like, well, if you look at the postseason, it's not his play style. That's the problem, is they're not playing the way he wants and needs to play in the postseason. So if they can stay true to who they are, if they can stay true to Lamar, and they can win a Super Bowl, he does, I think, unequivocally become a GOAT. Not the GOAT. He does not have Tom Brady's record. He doesn't have Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't have Joe Montana. There's 10 quarterbacks, at least, probably 20, that have better records than he does.
Mm-hmm.
Now, by the end of his career, maybe that looks different. But for right now, if he wins one, he does become a GOAT in his play style.
I would agree with pretty much everything you said in terms of, I would consider him already the GOAT as running quarterbacks go. Okay. What he's done for the game, the fact that he's broken nearly every rushing quarterback record. I think Cam Newton would be second on that list. I wouldn't want to say huge. I respected Cam Newton, prime Cam Newton, when he was with Carolina, and his just zero fear. I'm gonna run through you. We're gonna run.
We've kind of talked about, like, that's Josh Allen is like that, just lack of fear of me versus a 250-pound, 300-pound linebacker. Screw it.
Yeah, but I think Cam Newton had more athletic ability.
Yeah, definitely.
So I would put him second because he's been to the Super Bowl. He's had his chance. Mm-hmm. And he's spoken on it, actually, on his podcast, that he thinks Lamar Jackson is the best rushing quarterback of all time. So I think coming from probably the second best rushing quarterback of all time, I think that's huge praise. And I think Lamar is probably the GOAT in terms of rushing quarterbacks already. Now I think a Super Bowl just solidifies that, makes it so that you pretty much can't beat him unless you can't argue. You can't be like, well, Michael Vick did all this. Well, Cam Newton went to the Super Bowl. I think Lamar Jackson is that, but a Super Bowl win just solidifies it. You can't argue. He will be the GOAT of rushing quarterbacks. Now, as the overall GOAT, I'm like, that's Tom Brady. Like, I hate to say it. As a Seahawks fan, you're a Ravens fan. We both hate to say it. But Tom Brady is the GOAT. Like, there's just no one else in the league that has done what he's done. 7 Super Bowl wins. 10 appearances.
Yeah.
It's just there's something to be said. There's something to be said for that many Super Bowls and that many appearances. I don't think anybody in the world, not even Patrick Mahomes, will reach that point of
Okay.
that kind of dominance. I don't. I think Mahomes won't. And my reasoning behind that is I think there are too many teams that have a chance. If you look at it, like the AFC is one of the hardest divisions in the league. You have, or the conferences is the hardest conference. Like you have Buffalo challenging, you have the Ravens challenging, you have Burrow and Cincinnati challenging, you have, um, God,
The Texans are an
yeah,
interesting one.
Texans are now in there. Um, that's pretty much it. But you have like five teams that could reasonably win or make it to the conference championship every year. I just don't think Mahomes will be able to dominate the AFC quite like Brady did. Because I think with
Okay.
Brady, he had to only get through Manning. I feel like it was Manning and Brady in the AFC championship every year. That's all he
That's
had to get through. So I'm not saying like Mahomes can't. I'm just saying I don't think he will. I think the AFC and the NFL is only getting better, is only progressing towards more teams being competing. So I just don't think Mahomes will have the kind of dominance Brady did. I could be wrong. Mahomes could win the next 6 Super Bowls.
I mean, I do think 7, 10 appearances and 7 bowls, that's hard to challenge. I do think, and I have, I guess, twofold on this. I think if they go back this year and they win, he closes that gap significantly.
He closes it. I just don't think he.
No, he's not quite there. But, like, I don't think then it would take 7 for me to say maybe Mahomes was better. I would kind of have to see how his career ends. But to three-peat, it's kind of like 7 Super Bowls. Like, no one has ever done that.
No.
Like, it's hard to win one.
I would make the other argument real quick that Brady did it elsewhere too. That's the thing
Yeah,
for me. It's his 7th Super Bowl. He went to Tampa Bay first season, led them to
not
a
a
Super
good.
Bowl, led a somewhat decent roster to a Super Bowl. That's
And then did beat Patrick Mahomes.
yeah, beat
And
Patrick
I will
Mahomes
say
in the Super Bowl.
to any listener that thinks maybe the NFL is rigged, if it were rigged, Patrick Mahomes would have won that Super Bowl. Because it would have been like passing the torch.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So, but no, I agree with you. I don't know that I don't think Mahomes will get there. I really hope he doesn't. I really hope, I
for
hope
the
Mars ends his career with more Super Bowls than at least Mahomes. At least,
I,
but
I just don't want another decade of dominance. You know
no,
what I mean? Like I
I'm
just want
so tired of the same team. I'm going to be honest with you. I think even if it were the Ravens, I'd be like, okay, let's do something. Somebody else do something here.
like
Just to keep it competitive.
yeah, if you know who's gonna win every year, I feel like that takes all the fun out of watching. And
Yeah.
that's how I'm starting to feel with the Chiefs. Is that's how I felt with the Patriots of that's how I felt with the Patriots. How I'm feeling with the Chiefs right now is if you're gonna win every year, it just takes the enjoyment out of watching it, knowing that the Chiefs are gonna win, knowing that um the Patriots are gonna win. That was
Yeah.
kind of the well,
So we are, I think, pretty much through the Ravens kind of training camp news. Oh, Lamar was sick the first couple days, didn't spend a whole ton of time in practice on the third day. He's kind of got a crappy immune system. That man's had COVID more than I think most people. I'm not worried. He'll be back. He'll be ready.
it's not an
But
injury.
moving on to the Seahawks, Brendan. Tell us about what you're looking for in training camp, what you aren't excited about, what you're nervous about, all of it.
So Seattle's training camp is going pretty well so far, actually. Our pup list came out and had me a little bit scared. For anyone that doesn't know what the pup list is, it's the physically unable to perform list. And it's just you have an injury that's going to keep you out of training camp. And there was a lot of names on my list this year. There was Jerome Baker and Terrell Dotson, the two linebackers we signed in free agency, were both on the list to start training camp. Thankfully, both of them have passed a physical and are off the list, so they can start training camp, which is huge, considering they are the two starting linebackers in a Mike McDonald system that is built around having two good linebackers. Like,
Yeah.
you look at what he did with Roquan Smith. I think Roquan Smith was the biggest addition to that Ravens team. So having at least one good linebacker is huge. And then Patrick Queen was like, I think he took a step up once Roquan got there. But yeah, having two linebackers for that system, huge. So both of them being healthy, getting reps, great. My right tackle, Abe Lucas, or the Seahawks right tackle, Abe Lucas, is on the pup list still. I will get to an update later when I talk about Mike McDonald's press conference he did yesterday after the first day of training camp. Further on the list, we had Nehemiah Pritchett and DJ James, both cornerback draft picks from this year, both cleared physicals, so they're off the list. They can start practicing. I think DJ James has a pretty solid chance at earning a role, whether he comes in nickel or whether he actually starts. He has a chance to come in. Nehemiah Pritchett's an interesting one. I think he has a chance to be a return man because he did some of that in college, and he's fast. He is fast. So those are two people to keep in mind. Anthony Bradford, the guard, also cleared. So he will be challenging for a guard role, considering both of those guard spots, left guard and right guard, are open. And he was the starting right guard last year. So look at him to try to keep that spot or possibly move to the left side because he has that ability. He played left tackle in college
Oh, okay.
and swapped. So he played left tackle his first 2 years in college, moved to right guard for the last 2 years. So I think he still has the ability to play left guard because he's been on that left side and he knows how to
Yeah.
play guard. It's an interesting move. It might not work. I don't really know. It's just a thought. And then two lesser known, D. Williams, the undrafted wide receiver, cleared, and Lance Boykins, a cornerback, cleared. Then we had three names, or four names, because Abe Lucas still on the pup. We have Abe Lucas, right tackle, Drake Thomas, linebacker, Cam Young, who I think is an interesting one, and then Jarek Reed, safety. Both Jarek Reed and Cam Young are the two that I'm most them and Abe Lucas, but I think Abe Lucas will be back pretty soon. Cam Young is one on that defensive line that I think we might want back. I think we're going to need him just as a rotational piece with like Jonathan Hankins signing, huge, with Jaron Reed still being there, huge. But I think having Cam Young to help rotate in to be that real like clog in the middle, I think will be useful. And then Jarek Reed is a safety, which we only have three of. We only have Julian Love, Tyrone, no, Tyrese Wallace, and Rashawn Jenkins are the three safeties. So I think getting Jarek Reed back is going to be huge to help swap out safeties, maybe challenge for a starting role, or at least be a backup. So that's just the situation with health. There has been quite a few changes actually made to the roster, which is interesting. We made four signings, well, three signings and an extension. So we signed Marcus Sims, a wide receiver kick returner, to the 90-man roster just to try to get some kick return help. Maybe buff that up. We signed Jalen Sundell as an offensive lineman to have some depth at offensive line for the 90-man roster. I don't know if either of those two will actually make the 53-man roster, but we'll see. We signed Ilm Manning, a guard out of Hawaii, as an undrafted free agent, it sounds like. That's an interesting one. I don't really know much about him, but he signed yesterday. And following that signing, we cut Tremaine Ingram, the guard we signed from the Rams at the beginning of the offseason. He was like the first free agent signing for the Seahawks. So I think it was interesting. We cut a guy that's been in the league to sign a guy that hasn't been. So I'm curious to see about that. They must really like this Manning kid. the guard. And Tremaine Ingram just must not have been working out, or must just not have been able to get the starting role, which, I mean, like, is what it is. So I
That's just an
understand.
interesting thing to know after, like, just OTAs and minicamp, you know?
I
Like, to
Part
take
of
a
me,
veteran player. So that's interesting. That's definitely what I would if, I'd be interested to track him and see if he does make it to the 53-man roster.
I will. I'm gonna keep an eye on Manning, but part of me also thinks this was a cap move. Of you were
Oh, okay.
paying Ingram like 1.2 ish million. I'm not 100% sure on his contract, but you're paying him upwards of a mil. And if he
Yeah,
wasn't gonna make it, or if he's on the roster, but he's kind of like that last guy in terms of guards, if you're more
why
willing
spend
to,
the money?
yeah, why spend it when you could sign a undrafted free agent who you think has the same kind of potential to a significantly lesser contract?
That's fair.
That could give him a little more cap space, especially considering they brought in Connor Williams, the center for the Miami Dolphins, in for a visit. This is an interesting one. I thought the center position was probably the most solid position on the offensive line, except for maybe left tackle. But left tackle, we have some depth issues. So center was definitely one that I thought was pretty well set. So bringing in a center on a visit is a little interesting to me. We'll see where that goes. He did just come off.
Especially
Well,
him, because he's had some injury
yeah,
issues.
he just coming off an ACL tear. He did pass a physical. He's negotiating a contract now with Seattle, so we'll see what comes of that. But he had a successful visit, passed all his physicals. So we'll see if he actually signs and what the follow up move to that is. Because if they sign him, they need to cut somebody else. So we'll see what comes of that. And then another news of signings, Julian Love, the safety, signed a $36 million extension. I believe it's a 3-year deal, which I think is huge. I think this is one of the better signings. Getting a safety locked up, because we do not have one locked up for multiple years. It's Yeah, we have no safeties locked up for more than a year.
Dang.
Hmm?
I said, dang.
Yeah, we have 3 safeties. All of them are on 1-year deals. So getting Julian Love locked in for, I believe it's 3. I can't find the thing now. It is what it is. But yeah, I believe it's a 3-year, $36 million extension, which I think is huge. And I also think that shows that Mike McDonald liked him and wanted him, because that's all that tells me. Is Mike McDonald went, yep, he's the safety I need. He's the safety I want. So
You
we'll
were
see.
right, 3 years.
Yep, thank you. So that's it for Julian Love's extension. I think it's great. I think it locks in a very important piece on that defense, and it makes it so that our safety issue doesn't carry over till next year. I think
Yeah.
now if you re-sign maybe Rashawn Jenkins or Tyrone Wallace, or if Jarek Reed gets healthy and can step into that role, great. But we'll see. Really quickly, the last thing I want to talk about with the Seahawks is Mike McDonald's first press conference of training camp, because I did watch it. Not a whole lot to get from it. Um, was kind of excited that for his first press conference, he seemed excited. He seemed ready to go. Said it felt like Christmas out there, like for his first day. So I thought that was great. He talked about Gino's leadership ability, which I think is always good to hear, that Gino is the guy. Because I would prefer Gino to start. I'm one of those.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it says a lot that they got a new head coach and he didn't go, "Hey, I want a new quarterback."
yeah, and I
Um,
think it speaks to, I think it speaks to Gino's work and his leadership.
yeah.
So that's, he commented on that, and then he did give a couple comments on injuries. So he was not willing to give a timetable on Abe Lucas, um, which is not surprising considering he's coming from the Ravens organization,
Who's
who,
just they're just sketchy. They
yeah,
won't do it.
and he literally said won't give, he will not
Yeah,
give. So
yeah.
he won't give a timetable on Lucas, but he did say he is able to run full speed, which on an ACL, or it was a knee issue. Don't know what the knee issue. That's the thing with Abe Lucas's injury. We have no idea what it is. It is just a knee issue. It's a nagging knee problem. So being able to hear that he's running full speed means he probably will be ready soon-ish. Who knows?
Might just want to keep him off of like contact.
Yeah, and then talked about Connor Williams coming in, says he will play center if they sign him, and then had no timetable for his return either. Talked about Cam Young, who he did give a timetable for, and it's roughly a little more than a week. So he thinks he'll be ready by the end of training camp, getting out there, which I think, again, is huge. Another pretty solid D lineman to add to that rotation. And then Jarek Reed is going to be out longer than training camp, is what the prognosis is, which is not surprising. He tore his ACL pretty late in the season, and so being out a little longer than training camp, that probably means he's going to start the season on the PUP list. And if you start the season on the PUP list, you have to wait 4 games to be activated off of it. So I see him being one of those guys that is on the PUP list to start the season, waits his
Yeah.
4 games, probably comes back week 5, and then starts practicing from there. So probably won't be back till week like 8. But I think that's it. What to look for training camp? I just look at the players. Like, in terms of quarterbacks, don't take the interceptions to mean too much. Don't take the misses to mean a lot. Just keep that in mind. That's training camp. They're
Yeah.
trying to practice. They're doing stuff. They
All
might,
of those like videos that come out of there,
yeah,
like it's cool to see the back of the shoulder, corner of the end zone pass. It's great. But there are
yeah,
days where the offense is designed to win the day or the defense is designed to win the day. So if you're hearing, oh, a lot of interceptions, that's not something to be
yeah.
worried
That
about.
like just
Um,
take anything you
temper expectations.
take anything you hear out of training camp with a grain of salt. And then just keep an eye on players. Keep an eye on how the 53-man roster is being built. Um, you can learn a lot from just like who they think will make it and like the cuts that are to come because there's going to be a lot of them.
Yeah. Oh
It'll
yeah.
kind of give you an idea of what kind of team they're building, especially with the new coach, coordinators. Everything's new. There's no like returning NFL's type thing. Mike
Yeah.
McDonald's a new head coach, never done it before. Ryan,
Zach Orr's a new coordinator. Like,
yeah, Ryan Grubb being a new offensive coordinator. So just keep an eye on who they're keeping. That'll probably give you an idea to how they're going to play, the style, the overall um, game plan. Um, that is pretty much it for training camp. Just
so yeah, I mean, we've talked about this. Like, I'm a Ravens fan first and foremost, but I'm just a football fan. Like, I can
same here.
respect good teams, good rosters, and I can point out shit plays if uh, Zay Flowers and I still ain't right. But as a Seahawks fan, I think Mike McDonald is an exciting acquisition. I know
100%.
you can't fill the shoes of Pete Carroll, that kind of energy.
No. It
I mean, that kind of youth in a 70-plus-year-old man is crazy.
Yeah.
Um, I don't have that kind of energy, and I'm half his age. So you can't fill those shoes. But to see what he's going to bring to a team that,
Needs the
y'all have
defensive
really
help.
struggled, yeah, to tackle and to have some of those things. So to see what he's going to do with a team that's kind of like the Ravens, like they are known for their defense. The Legion of Boom is a big deal. So to kind of see them be able to get back to that and what they're going to produce. I know we talked about McDonald's, one of his early on press conferences, wanting to get Metcalf more involved, and that was one of your complaints last season. To
100%.
just know what their goal for the team is going into this season. I think a lot of times when new head coaches step in, you have to be cautious with expectations. You have to be
Mhm.
realistic. But I think McDonald is a really good acquisition, and I think having spent so many years with both of the Harbaughs, one of the things they do the best is know their shortcomings.
Mhm.
So they know how to build a staff around them. So to have that experience, so when he was building his staff, I think there's a lot of exciting things coming out of Seattle.
I'm
Um,
I'm honestly more excited for this year than I've been in a while. I
in a
think it's
while.
a lot
Yeah.
of it is the newness. It's with Pete Carroll. Love him. Great head coach. I did not think he was going to get fired. I
Yeah, I
didn't
mean that was
like
crazy. I
no one
didn't
thought that was going to happen. I kind of thought
crazy.
his contract would expire and they'd kind of be like, "You want to retire now, Pete? You want to well, you want to just
Want to take
take
an executive role or
yeah, you want to take your leave and
yeah,
just go into retirement." But I also think it was the right move. I think with Pete Carroll, it just started to get old. He had the same message, the same
yeah,
style, everything for the 10 plus years he was there. So I think bringing in new coordinators, new coach, getting everything new to help just revitalize the energy in that locker room, get everybody back into one mind, one focus. And I think Mike McDonald is a great head coach. I can't say that actually. I think McDonald could be a great head coach.
okay. Do you think if things go well,
Hmm.
we're being realistic, right? Because that's who we are. We're realistic with our football takes.
Hmm.
Do you think they could challenge for division leader this year?
No,
No.
I
Okay.
think okay. I think the division is the 49ers division. I think at the end of the day, they're the best team in the NFC, if we're being honest. So I think, but I do think if all goes well, this this is a great team and a good start. I think we come second. I see our highest being like a 10-win season,
Okay.
but I also see like a floor of like 5 or 6 wins of nothing kind of gelled, nothing.
Or it just took us time.
Yeah,
It took
like
time to kind of get there.
yeah, it took time. It like nothing gelled right away. But we stuck to it. I think the best and most likely scenario would be a 9 to 10 win season. I think the best case scenario is 9 to 10 wins. And I think that's definitely doable. I think that is 100% doable. Um, but I don't think they're going to challenge for the division. I don't think they're going to really challenge in the NFC. I think they could make the
Okay.
playoffs, and I think this defense is going to be wildly improved. I mean, wildly. Um, and then the only other like real position group that's interesting is the offensive line, which is another one. Bringing in Jay, no Scott Huff, Scott Huff, the offensive line coach that was with Washington.
Yeah.
He just had 3 offensive linemen taken in this most recent draft. He
Yeah.
had Pittsburgh took the left tackle, the Ravens took the right tackle, and then I want to say somebody took the center. I don't remember who, but he was later in the draft. So yeah, he just had 3 offensive linemen taken in the draft. And from everything I've heard, he's one of the better offensive line coaches in terms of like teaching and developing technique and getting people up to speed. And that's all I've heard out of Seahawks right now is they built a staff of teachers and a staff of guys that are gonna teach you what you need to do in the simplest way so that you can go out there every Sunday and just
And
play
produce.
your best football. And I'm that's kind of what I'm excited for is seeing what McDonald's teaching really does in terms of a head coach and what the coordinator's teachings do and just everything from there. So I'm pretty excited. Um, I'm definitely I'm gonna go cautiously optimistic. I think we can have another 9-win season. I think a 9-win season is fantastic for the first year. Now, I don't want to see more 9-win seasons in a row because that's all we've done, and that was my biggest complaint under Pete Carroll. But
You want to see
I
progress being made.
yeah, and my biggest complaint under Pete Carroll was the lack of progress. We won 9 games for the past like 4 seasons, but
And
this
not
year,
really competing in the playoffs, and
yeah,
you're not.
this year I think having changed everything, if we won 9 games, I'd be fine. Because at this point, there's like nothing else. Everything's changed. So getting 9 wins seems like a challenge this year. Now, next year, the year after, 9 wins probably won't cut it unless we really take a step back this year and win like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's it for my Seahawks. Is there anything else you want to talk about with training camp, maybe in your division?
So I I think this is an interesting year because going into last year, I had reservations
Mm-hmm.
um, with a new offensive coordinator, you know, just what were we going to look like? And then all concerns were blown out the window. Straight up blew teams out.
Mm-hmm.
This year, if Burrow can stay healthy, obviously I think that's kind of the main challenge to the Ravens in terms of division leader.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Lamar does win his head to head matchups with Burrow the majority of the time, but they have a very tough schedule this year. They're playing 10 playoff teams from last year. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's the highest any team is doing. They have a week where they play like 3 games in like 10 or 11 days. It's kind of crazy. I I think it's going to be a rough year. I think in terms of scheduling and teams and all of that. But even if they take a step back, when you look at they were beating teams by 20, 30 plus points, taking a step back does still mean wins.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is one of those years. I think division leader. Because I think see it's hard. I think they'll have the in division record. Whether or not they have the in season record, I think is where them and the Bengals are going to battle because Burrow was out last year. They have an easier schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a lot of faith. Maybe it's unfounded. Maybe it's slightly unrealistic. But Henry really does give me confidence going into the postseason that I don't think I've had in a long time. You know, under Greg Roman, it wasn't good. Lamar's been hurt. Last year, what happened during the first half of the Texans game and then the entirety of the Chiefs game. I think if we can get to the playoffs, I'll have more faith than I have had in a while. Um, I am going to take the Ravens as division leader. If the Bengals win, I won't be shocked.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if the Steelers win, I'll throw shit.
I'll be shocked.
If
I'll
the Browns win,
I once again will be shocked.
I don't know how shocked I'll be.
I'll be shocked purely because of the Bengals and the Ravens.
Yeah, but like Stefanski is a really good head coach. I think we know at this point like the Deshaun Watson of the Texans is gone. I don't think.
No.
But he is a really good team. I mean, he took Joe Flacco to the playoffs. Um, so I do think it's the Ravens or the Bengals. I am gonna take the Ravens, just because yeah, Lamar always beats Burrow. I think he's 4-1 against their head-to-head matchups, and he's like 8-1 against the Bengals. So yeah, I'm not. It's not that I'm not positive. I'm excited about everything they've done, but this is a very tough schedule this year,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not unimmune to that. And I don't think, but I do think if the Ravens are true to who they are, they're hard to game plan against. They're hard to
Yeah.
scheme against. You're still looking at a backfield with Lamar and Derrick Henry. That's not good luck. good luck.
Yeah,
Um,
that is a
you're still
1-2 punch.
looking at Roquan, um, and Matabike and Kyle Van Noy. We've upgraded the secondary because that's kind of always been the Ravens' thing. They'll let you drive the ball down the field, you just can't get the last like 5 yards.
Hmm.
So I think with an upgraded secondary, maybe the offense doesn't have to be, Superman. Maybe they don't have to be that.
Hmm.
So yeah, I am going to take him as division leader, but it's also got to keep an eye on training camp and injuries and weeks 1 and 2 are kind of liars.
Yeah,
So we'll see. But I'm excited. I'm ready for the football.
yeah. And then
Um,
really quickly before we
yeah,
transition,
yep,
we have one
do
more
it.
piece of breaking news because it just
Oh,
happened.
oh
Kirk,
dang.
Kirk Cousins has been medically cleared to participate in
Oh,
training camp. It's not as big as
um, no, I didn't realize. I guess that he hadn't been prior.
no.
So that's
He
good. But I don't think also if they haven't started yet, then technically they
they
tend to clear you that like first day.
yeah, they start. I think they started. I think yesterday, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay,
But he has been cleared, so he's good to go. Adding to the
that's
list of quarterbacks that have been cleared. So
good for him. I think I think Atlanta's should be excited.
yeah,
I mean, they have the best quarterback room in the NFL by far. I think, if you can kind of get over the drama
yeah.
of it, then I think they're in
I
a
think they're
great place.
they're one that I think they could challenge for the NFC in terms of
Yeah,
being there with that because they have a pretty solid roster and
they
they
have a
just
great
I felt
roster,
like last year they were a quarterback away and they got their quarterback and
a quarterback away, and sometimes they're not great at using their first round picks.
they
So if
still
they can do
aren't
that this year, if they can fix, I do think I think there's benefit to
drafting Penix.
Penix, but also having Kirk Cousins in the building
Yeah,
because Cousins is not some nobody quarterback that you signed for a year to try and get this team going.
no,
He's been in the league a long time. I think as Arthur Smith, you have to look at him,
it's not even
take what
Arthur
he
Smith
has.
anymore.
Who is it?
It's Raheem Morris.
Okay, Morris. Because you have a new head coach that's probably going to be more willing to do that. But
Hmm.
then also, as a new head coach, you're going to be looking to your veteran quarterback to be like, help me game plan, help me scheme. How do we get these guys involved? So I think they're in a prime position to at least take their division. I wouldn't be shocked at all.
I think yeah, I
um,
think they could be easily their division, and I think they could seriously challenge in terms of like
for the NFC.
especially they'll make the postseason, and I think they could give teams a run. Like they won't
Yeah,
be the easiest to beat, so I think they could challenge. Um, but that was it. It just Adam Schefter posted it just now,
no,
so
that's
thought I'd
cool.
quickly throw that in there.
Well, that's awesome. I think we are going to transition to the WNBA. We're going to talk specifically today about the All Star game because that's kind of what just most recently happened, which leads us into kind of the Olympics and moving forward in that regard.
I will say
I did watch the WNBA game. Go ahead.
I did not watch the WNBA All Star game, so I won't be able to talk a whole ton.
Um, we're gonna talk a few things. I'm gonna start with I think the most sought after storyline entering that was Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese were on the same team. They were on the
Hmm.
court together, not battling each other. It was really great to see. I do think when you first started the game, I think it was kind of clear that neither one of them really knew what to do with that. There was this level of we have never done this. We have been competing against each other for a very long time. It's been chippy, it's been aggressive, it's been women's sports, all of which is normal and natural. But now to be on the team together, we're unclear really how to interact with each other. When Reese first hit the court, she immediately did well with rebounds. And there was a moment where Clark kind of hesitated to go congratulate her, not because I don't think she wasn't happy for her teammate, but there was just this, does she even want me to
This
kind of hesitation.
awkward
Yeah,
hesitation. Yeah.
like, so it definitely started that way. It got better, which kind of takes us into our records. The three records were broken in this All Star game. So the first one, Clark did break the rookie assist record in an All
Mhm.
Star game at 10 assists. She did not match Sue Bird's assist record at 11. I think a big part of that, she was tired and she did not play a whole ton in the second half. They did try and kind of get her the ball to have those assists, but some shots were missed. Some things happened. It just didn't work out that way. But her record breaking assist at number 9 was an underneath pass to Angel Reese, who set up for then a layup of 2 points. It was their only connection on for the day, but to have won it all is impressive when you think about some of the drama that surrounded the two of them, some of the chippiness. Just to see that connection was really awesome. They, they high fived each other. They were excited for it. It was great to see. Reese also broke a record as the first rookie to have a double double during the All Star game, which is kind of what she's been the queen of. It's what's putting her in the conversation for Rookie of the Year. So that was awesome to see, just the consistency from regular season to the All Star game. And the third and final record broken was Arike Agumbawale broke the record for the most points recorded in an All-Star game at 34. The crazy part here was they all came in the second half. For those unaware, 34 points in half of a WNBA game is impressive, especially by one player. It was crazy to watch. All of her points were like three-pointers or at the line. She just kind of went on this heater. She was asked about it multiple times. She went in at halftime, and the coach was like, "You need to chill and you need to take a breath, and let's get back to who we are." And she's like, "I took a breath, came out, and just hit the fire." It was impressive to watch. She did win MVP of the game, rightfully so. There was no question. The first half, it was very, everyone's spreading the ball. We're all taking these shots. We're all taking our chances. But Agumbawale just went off. Um, kind of get it back. Oh, so the other thing I really liked about the game was the media coverage during it. Right now, the main coverage point has been Caitlin Clark. That's deserving. I get it. Um, she really has brought all of this attention, all of this money, all of these things to the WNBA, a league that has struggled. They haven't made a profit ever. It's a very young league at 30 years old, so they're still figuring things out. They've had superstars, they've had great stars in the past. This is the first time, though, a player was really noticed in college. And she was noticed because of the drama. We love drama in America. It's why reality shows do so well. So her and Reese's drama that started in college and moved to the WNBA has brought a lot of attention. What I respected and loved was during the All Star game, that was not all they talked about. They kind of called out all of the positive things happening in the WNBA. They talked about the Liberty, who are right now favorites to win the championship. They have the best record in the league. They talked about Reese and all of her accomplishments, and they did talk about Clark and the record she's set and the things she's been doing. But it was a very spread out coverage, and it gave attention to kind of everybody that deserved it. The other thing, so so now to bring it back to Caitlin Clark a little bit, obviously with kind of the coverage, you can't not talk about her. There were a couple of interviews given before and after the All Star game that I think are really important. The first one being she did not participate in the skills competition. And when asked why, she gave a very simple answer, which was, "I'm freaking tired." You have to remember that from college women's basketball to the start of training camp is about a month when you play in the championship game. She didn't really have any time off. She went from one league to the next and then proceeded to have the hardest start in WNBA history with 11 games in 20 days, which is outrageous. It's a lot of back-to-back games, really hard teams, and she's pretty much carried that team. So she said she was really looking forward to the All-Star break. She needed it. Her body needed it. She kind of said the same thing. A big deal a couple of months ago was she was left off the USA team. She was left off the Olympic team. A lot of the debate was she snubbed? You and I talked about this when it happened.
Yeah,
I felt like it was a kind of a disservice to women's basketball. You
100%.
kind of want that star, bring attention. I really did love that about the All-Star game is you show up for Caitlin Clark. If you're a Clark fan, you showed up for her. But then getting to watch these other great players, hopefully now you're staying for the sport.
Yeah.
We see it wherever Caitlin Clark goes, they sell out arenas. They have to change the venues. They do all of these things because while she's in town, there's a lot of coverage. But when Caitlin Clark goes, so does the fan base. I'm hoping, and I was hopeful during the Olympics, that you'd get to see her play alongside of the best of the best. So yes, you'd show up for Caitlin, but you'd stay to see the Diana Taurasi's, the Brittany Griners, all of these other girls that play really well.
Mm-hmm.
You got that benefit during the All-Star game. I didn't think she was snubbed. I don't think a rookie in any league can be snubbed being left off the Olympic team. You
100%.
haven't really earned it. You haven't really proven that you can keep up. It's not a knock on any player, it's just fact. Professional sports play at a higher level, a faster pace. We don't know that yet. So we wait and we let you get your feet wet just by sticking with your team. She did say after the game that she was kind of glad now that she'd been left off
Yeah.
because she is that tired. And you could see it in her game. Like, yes, she had the assist, but the shooting was so far off. She went 0 for 4 on 3-pointers. She only had 4 points for the day. She just needs a break. Her body's tired. And you have to think, for Clark, it's not just the playing. She's doing all of these commercials, all of these ads. She's getting all of these sponsorships. And those things are great for her, and they're great for the WNBA. The woman needs a nap. Like, you you can just see it, and you could kind of see it in her last couple games with the fever. The turnovers kind of started to go back up. We're missing shots. Not that she's not great. We're just struggling. She's just tired. So the All-Star break kind of came at the perfect time for her. I had said it then. I think there were benefits to her being left off the team. I think we're definitely seeing that now.
Mm-hmm.
Had to travel to Paris, the time change, all of that, have the training, play the games, do all these things, and then come back and immediately jump back in. For someone that hasn't stopped playing basketball for almost a year and a half, it's too much.
Yeah.
Especially when the Fever right now are on track to make the playoffs. Get her rested, get her right, and focus on the WNBA. And I believe in 4 years she'll be on that team. There's
Oh, there's no
there's no
doubt.
way. If you leave her off again, then she's been snubbed. It's
And
crazy.
the only way she gets left off again is she stops being able to play basketball. She
Yeah.
just forgets how to shoot a ball. She forgets everything.
So yeah, I do think it's a good thing. There are some positives there. But if you still are upset that she's been left off it, at this point, just be glad that the woman gets a break.
Mm-hmm.
And then, obviously, the WNBA All Star team did beat Team USA. No, this is not something to be concerned about at all. The WNBA team will win gold. They haven't lost in like the last 7. It's
I
pretty crazy. Worldwide, they do not have competition. It's just true. They are pretty much guaranteed the gold. The WNBA All-Star team is the best competition they will face. Like, it's way
Period.
better than what they'll see
Yeah.
in the Olympics. End of story. So it's a good game. I think also you didn't see a lot of that starting lineup a whole ton. You kind of saw some of those bench players get more time. They're fighting for minutes. They're fighting to prove, hey, we should get some time during the Olympics as well. But absolutely nothing to be concerned about in that regard. Yeah, I don't see a way or a reality where they don't take gold. The interesting thing that will come out of that is right now for women's basketball, Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi are tied for the most medals taken at 5 gold medals apiece. If and when the USA team wins gold this year, Diana Taurasi will take the lead at 6. And this
Interesting.
will probably be her final Olympics.
Yeah, it'll be the like feather in the cap just to get
Yeah,
that last
that
uh
last one, break the tie. She was put on this team not for lack of talent, but she was put there to be the veteran presence, the
yeah,
veteran leadership.
and to
Um,
really just get that 6th medal.
yeah. So even I'm not saying she's gonna retire as soon as she comes back. Even if she's in the league in 4 years, I doubt she's on that team. I doubt she's
Yeah.
in the league 4 more years, but I doubt she's on that. Kind of with the Olympics, we are going to yes, we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay. With Olympic talk, we're going to kind of get into a little bit of what we know about the Olympics as of right now.
Mhm.
Yes, some competitions have started. I believe soccer has started,
It has.
and
Dub
rugby,
I also believe women's basketball started.
women's basketball started. Um, so we'll have more updates on those games and things like that next week. But just for right now, we're going to kind of talk about just them entering the Olympic Village and some things we've taken note of then,
Mhm.
as well as there are some sports actually not staying in the village, which I find interesting.
Mhm.
So to start, the number one topic, of course, has been the cardboard beds. As you and I talked about the other day, cardboard beds really isn't new
No.
for the
It's
Olympics.
a
What's new is the mattress situation.
yeah, which
Uh, if you're on TikTok at all, almost every athlete has done a video about these beds. They're three. I don't like the word foam because they're not foam. It's basically plastic rubbering thing.
yeah,
Um, Little squares
mhm.
that have differences between soft, moderate, firm, and very firm.
Mhm.
You're supposed to go into like a commons area and an AI machine takes a scan of your back and your sides. And then it tells you how you're supposed to arrange these three squares
Mhm.
best suited for your back. 90% of the athletes I've seen have said it's a crock of shit. It's painful, it's uncomfortable, they can't sleep. They're just basically in hell. Pretty much every USA athlete, and I believe Australia at least, have all bought mattress toppers, like the foam
Yeah,
2-inch
yeah.
toppers, to go over it. So that's been interesting to see.
Mhm.
They also France decided not to put AC in any of these
Oh
units.
yeah, I did see that.
They put water in the walls, which
Mhm.
is not helping. It's not fixing it. I guess
But
during the day it's been pretty cool, but it's night, it's a
yeah,
hot box of hell.
I've heard there've been some countries, not a ton. There's been like 6 that have bought like AC units to go on
Yep,
every one of their athletes.
the
Uh,
USA is one of them.
I didn't know that. I think Denmark was
Yeah,
one. I remember seeing them. The other
I
ones,
th-
I cannot remember. I saw the list.
yeah. Um, so it's just been an interesting, I think, adventure
At
this
least,
first
at least they
couple
all,
of
at least they all get
days.
phones.
Yeah, they did all get a
Flip
Samsung
phone.
Flip, so I think half of them are like, "What the hell was this?" And it's been going off with weird updates
Yeah,
and
I
announcements
will
at like
say
6 a.m.
it is kind of cool because like designed around the Olympics,
Yeah,
so it is
and
like
it's,
a
I mean,
cool piece of
I
like
think it's a good way to like. we talk about like your phone in different countries
Yeah.
to have one that's like it's meant to work here. I think it's an awesome thing.
Yeah.
The amount of swag they've all gotten is wildly impressive.
Oh yeah.
Um, I actually didn't know something, and I felt kind of stupid.
Mhm.
I did not know Nike was not like just the universal Olympic sports apparel.
Mm.
I thought Nike literally did every team and every country and all their shit, and that's not
No,
the case.
because there are
Um,
European-based companies
yeah,
that will
and
do
so
European teams.
I just had no idea.
Okay.
I just felt stupid. There was an athlete going, "Hey, look at what this people got us." I was like, "Who are they?" And I'm looking at it and I'm like, "Oh, that's like all your athletic gear." I was like, "What about Nike?" What's Nike?
That
I
is
had to look it up. And
that's funny.
Nike was like, "Oh, we do these countries." And then someone else I was like, "That totally makes sense." Had
Mhm.
no idea.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
and then
there's one other interesting thing
go ahead.
for me. I don't know if you've seen the gold medals they're giving out.
Have not.
They are pretty nice, and so it's like gold outer ring,
Huh.
and then they have like a little hexagon in the middle that's made from the
Okay.
Eiffel Tower,
Oh, that's
made from
exciting.
like parts of the Eiffel Tower.
Cool.
That's like I saw this the other day, and I was like, that is actually pretty cool.
That's yeah,
And
I mean,
I don't think it's just the
that's
gold
cool.
medals that they're doing it for.
Okay.
So like the
So we'll definitely have
bronze,
to keep an eye on those.
yeah. So I just remember seeing that and went, that was an interesting little touch they did for
Yeah.
France, and I thought it was interesting.
No, that's awesome. Um, and then people not staying in the Olympic Village. So the surfers and the rowers actually are staying outside of the village.
Hmm.
The surfers are living on a cruise ship
That's
with a ferry that's taking them inland for their competitions. I guess where they're competing, like in the sea that they're doing this in, is not near France at all.
yeah, not
So they're staying on a cruise ship in the middle of this sea, and then yeah, ferry will take them inland to get started and
hmm
do all their competitions and things like that. But yeah, all of the surfers have this cruise ship to themselves with all of these different countries. So that's actually been interesting to see. The athletes were actually pretty excited about it. They're like
I
people to talk to that do what we do. Um, And you don't have kinda, I think, some of the distractions that come with being in the village or having access to France as a whole. You just really get this and to focus on your competition, so
yeah.
that's pretty exciting. And then the rowers, so I guess where they're competing is actually about 2 hours away
Mm,
from the Olympic Village, and by Olympic Committee policy, you can't be more than I think it's 25 minutes away.
okay.
um, just to guarantee athletes are going to get there. The excuse can never be, hey, we couldn't get the athletes here on time.
Yeah.
So, with traffic and everything. So, the rowers are in a set of hotels um, near that area. They do have the hotel to themselves. It's not something that, like,
The public
people
shares.
yeah, the public has any access to. It is the rowers only, so that's pretty
Okay.
exciting for them, and they don't have to deal with the cardboard bed bullshit.
Yeah.
They get an actual bed. Same with the cruise ship, they just
Yeah.
get a bed. So, but they still and both the surfers and the rowers have said, "We will get to experience the village. We will get to watch these other competitions and do all these things." So it's not like they're missing out on anything. They just, for right now, during their sets,
Are
are
living.
staying away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a
Um.
good idea. Like again,
Yeah.
it
You get to
makes
bond.
yeah.
You get to stay where you're not. Other than the snowboarder, it was like 12 years ago that woke up late. You really are meant to focus on competing and getting through your sessions.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, I could not imagine going, yeah, I have to row, but I had to sit in a bus for 2 hours and I'm kind of freaking out that we're gonna be late.
Yeah.
So, same with the surfers of like, God, how far do we have to travel just to compete? So I think it's good. I think the fact that they had these other accommodations set up, they had these options, they had these things in mind.
Hmm.
it just shows kind of the forethought that go into the Olympics, all of the effort and work that goes into it, uh, from everybody,
Hmm.
the country itself, these different companies, these different, everyone that's competing. I think it's really great
Yeah.
to see. Um, we've talked about. I always love the Olympics. It helps me get into sports that I'm not usually
Hmm.
invested in. Like, no, I do not watch surfing competitions on
No,
TV on a regular basis, but to watch it, watch the best of the best
do it. And
right now is going to be really awesome. Um,
there's a lot of sports that, like, if the Olympics is on, it'll be on in the background in my house. Like,
yeah,
that's just
that's just
how it's
fact.
gonna. Yeah.
It's You can't not be. We've talked about it. Like during the Winter Olympics, I get really into curling. I get obsessively invested in curling.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just fun to see. It's fun to see how these different countries and communities come together, how they support each other despite extensive language barriers.
Oh yeah.
A lot of these teams only travel with like a translator to the language they will need to compete or things like that. So a
Hmm.
lot of these people, but now, I mean, you think about it now, everyone was given a Samsung Flip.
Yep.
Okay. Now most of these phones do it, but you were given a phone that like will translate an
Yeah.
entire conversation for you.
Samsung's new like AI system
Yeah. So I'm
translates
like,
so apparently it's actually pretty good at doing it
I'm gonna
too.
be
So
honest. I watch videos that are not in English. I there are cultures that I like seeing kind of what they have to say and content that they put out, and it translates it really well.
hmm.
So I mean, when you think about like the Olympics 20 years ago
Oh yeah.
and the language barriers they had and the difficulties they had, to now just have a little thing in your pocket to just speak into and then I mean, it's really great to kind of see that community grow and their
Oh yeah.
ability to communicate and their ability to share with each other and be present with each other. I think is phenomenal because it's not just about like yes, it's about competing and winning gold for your country, but it's about connecting and these countries working with each other and working alongside each other, with everyone trying to accomplish this same goal. And
Hmm.
so I think it's the beauty in that is fantastic, and to see the progress that's been made to let that flourish is
Oh yeah. One hundred
fantastic. And
percent.
when we talk about how much division there is worldwide, to have this massive, massive event
Hmm.
that just brings the world together. And it's like you said, it doesn't matter if there's politics going on. It doesn't matter. Everyone is tuned in to the Olympics,
Hmm.
rooting for these sports and rooting for these athletes. So I think it's really great to see. I'm definitely excited.
Hmm.
Definitely gonna probably hang up here and then see what's on and what we can get
Yeah.
started and watching. Um and then I guess the one other thing we didn't really discuss, but since we're talking WNBA, Brendan, what should they expect from the men's NBA team?
Um, the men's team is loaded with talent, and it's also very interesting because the men's basketball team and the U.S. have decided to make LeBron James a flag bearer for this year's Olympics, which is very interesting because he's the first NBA player to do it, to be the flag bearer in the
Yeah,
Olympics.
that's really cool. We talked
And
because in the past it's either been WNBA or the NBA male players couldn't compete in the Olympics, so it was
yeah,
somebody else.
so yeah, he is the first male NBA player to carry the flag for the basketball side. Um, I think that's fantastic. Again, he is one of the leaders on that team, and it's LeBron James. He's been a leader his entire life, and he can still do it, despite reports that he might not be able to. If you watched any of the like pre-Olympic games, uh, the South Sudan game really stood out in terms of when LeBron was not on the floor, the U.S. sucked. It's just a fact. They almost lost to South Sudan. LeBron and Curry came in and wrote the ship, righted the ship,
I
just
was following you.
corrected the issue. And
They fixed it.
yeah, they fixed it. They came in. The U.S. won. I think LeBron being chosen for that just shows the amount of respect he has within the United States and within basketball. So I do, especially with all the talent that is going in terms of basketball from the United States. If you look on both sides, the women's and the men's, the amount of talent that's going to see him be chosen is very indicative of the amount of respect he's earned from his peers in terms of like basketball
Yeah.
and I think that's it for like the basketball team. They're
Awesome.
also with the amount of talent, they're obviously looking for gold this year, so we'll be watching.
They're looking for gold. I did hear an interesting fact this morning
Mm,
that during the Olympic Games,
yep.
the USA team will face 61 NBA players throughout all of the teams that they're expected to face.
That's
Which
okay.
is obviously a high for the games because there were, again, we talked about years that NBA players couldn't compete, but also as the NBA as a whole has gotten more international.
Yeah.
I think there was a time the Dream Team faced 9 throughout
Uh,
their entire Olympic run, and this team now will face a total of 61
which
NBA players throughout the Olympic Games,
is
which is
exciting.
kind of crazy. It's definitely exciting. The thing that I'm not saying. Obviously, I think South Sudan proved they clearly have talent on their team.
Hmm.
I caught a little bit of the Germany game. They clearly have talent.
Germany's one of the better teams.
Um, so I'm not saying they won't face competition, but I do think sometimes those 61 are going to be
Spread out and
they're yeah, it's and like one player versus
11 or what? I don't know how many are.
the USA's like 10 or 11 is not.
Yeah.
You're facing 5 squads over like 100 teams. So it's really
Hmm.
cool to see. It's cool to see how the NBA has grown, especially from an international standpoint. And it'll be cool to see some of these players that we know and love compete for their country. Like
Hmm.
it was exciting to see Jokic
Oh yeah.
represent his country.
Represent
I was a
Serbia.
little bummed that Jokic Doncic didn't make the Olympic team, but that's at the same time probably better for him because he was
Yeah.
definitely hurt in the finals. Just get healed.
I think that was part of it.
Yeah.
And then I think I'm excited to
And
see
then he
like
lost to
I don't know.
the guy whose name I don't know.
Whatever. Um
But so yeah, it's it's just interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I definitely agree. I think they should take gold. Um,
we'll see.
but yeah, it'll be a good competition. Good to see. I'm excited to see some of these people play for their country,
Hmm.
even though they play in the U.S.
So we'll be watching the Olympics pretty much for the next however long it's on.
2 weeks.
Two, two, three
Yeah,
weeks. I
two
don't.
weeks.
Okay.
2 weeks.
Yep. So the Olympics will
With
be.
opening ceremonies being this Friday, um,
Hmm.
and then the conclusion I believe is August 11th.
Okay.
So
So expect videos on the Olympics. Expect us to get more involved in the talks of the Olympics as the Olympics progress, and we
mhm.
start figuring out who's going to really compete for gold, who's going to get it, who's winning events.
And we'll kind of be talking, all sports. Simone Biles has the potential
Hmm.
to break a record for the most medals taken by a gymnast ever. There are definitely some things. We're just going to kind of get into all of it. We're
Hmm.
sports fanatics. We will, of course, talk a little bit of football as training camp progresses, and preseason starts to heat up.
Hmm.
We will eventually review the top 100. Um, we're not going to do that until it's all out. Sometimes it's easier to kind of critique
Hmm.
once the whole list is out because then we can go, okay, you should be here, but then who do we bump and who do we move and things like
Hmm.
that. So we'll talk that. We'll talk Hard Knocks probably when it's all out and done. We'll probably start talking Giants Hard Knocks as the Bears starts to happen.
Hmm.
So yeah, a lot of great things coming. If you liked this first episode, or at least were
Tolerated
interested in
it.
the content, please subscribe to Flock's Nest Sports Podcast. Once again, I am your host, Dallas,
I'm Brendan.
and
Thank
we
you
will be
all for
bringing you videos every week.
thank y'all for hanging around.